Hello, this is Kavita with Aligned and Soulful Success. And this week I am diving into imposter syndrome and three ways that you can overcome syndrome. So, what is imposter syndrome? Imposter syndrome, according to an article that I found in Psychology Today, is it's when people believe that they don't belong, they don't deserve their achievements, and if they're given compliments, they don't believe them, and sometimes actually being given um, giving compliments, excuse me, that can make a person highlight the imposter syndrome. Having some success and maybe a little bit of recognition can highlight the feeling of that you don't belong or that you're an imposter, feeling like an imposter. Okay. And oftentimes, people that um, feel this imposter syndrome are very successful. And so they are not able to acknowledge their capabilities and efforts. And they think they attribute everything or a lot of the things that have happened to luck, to external circumstances that are not in their control. Okay. And so then there's also the sense of not feeling good enough. Like, oh, look, that person deserved. So it's like this comparison piece that happens, right? Of like comparing yourself to others, maybe in your career or in other roles. You can use this when it comes to being a wife, a mother, a partner, at work, a business owner, right? You can feel like an imposter in many areas of your life. Today, I'm mainly focusing on business, entrepreneurship, and even this could apply to your career and how that can show up there. So, the imposter syndrome shows up as a business owner pretty quickly because as an entrepreneur, you are creating something that was not there. You're creating something from scratch, and you are going to be given messages or receive messages around you that you're making a mistake or you don't know what you're doing. You're going to see others who are very successful and not sure if you can actually achieve that. When you have moments of success and things working in your favor, then you can question how that happened, right? So there are so many opportunities to feel like an imposter as an entrepreneur, and especially if it's something that you're not used to, right? And I will say, even if you're an entrepreneur and have been in business for a while, or even if you've had a career and had that career for a while, every time you move up to the next level is when you can feel this again, right? And so this is kind of that internal, that mind, that ego mind that's coming and telling you that you're not good enough. It doesn't like the change. It doesn't like when you put yourself out there. It doesn't like when you do things different. Your brain is designed to keep you safe, right? And so the imposter syndrome is part of that. It's part of the way that your brain is trying to protect you, right? So how does it showing up for you? I'm going to ask you for a moment, if imposter syndrome does show up for you and how it does show up. In what ways does it show up for you? And when it shows up for you, what do you end up doing? How does it impact you, your forward movement and your success? Right? So for most of the entrepreneurs that I work with, when it shows up, it stops them and they go immediately into kind of an overwhelm of looking up a solution, looking into their comfort zone. So if their comfort zone is to learn, which is one of my go-tos, right? They will go and try to learn more so that they feel like they belong and they no longer feel like an imposter, right? So that's a big one, is trying to learn more, take more trainings, take more classes, take more and more and more. Now, there's nothing wrong with taking those things. It's just, where is that coming from? Do you feel like you need to do that so that you belong, so that you're good enough? Or are you taking that training because it's something you really want to do and it feels good to add, right? And you want to learn how to do that, right? So being really clear about the reason behind it. Another thing that people can do when they feel like an imposter is to hide, right? And so hiding may be hiding behind paperwork, hiding behind things that um, need to get done, but are not the priority in your business, right? So if you have a business, one of the priorities is to market, right, and to kind of, as they say, put yourself out there. And when you feel like this imposter syndrome rise up, you're more likely to hide behind tasks in your business. If anybody asked you, you would say you're busy, and you actually feel busy because you've been taking care of these tasks, right? But they're tasks that are not the priority, right? So we can actually have low priority tasks take over our days. That's kind of a way of hiding in our business. So that's just a couple ways that it could be showing up for you. So I don't want to leave you with that. I want to leave you with some solutions as well. Okay. So the imposter syndrome can show up a lot of times as we compare ourselves to others. So we compare ourselves to others in our industry, or we compare ourselves to others who are doing what we used to do, right? Or even compare ourselves to others who are doing something we thought of doing instead of our business, right? So that's some of the ways that I've seen it show up, right? So if you left a career to start your business, when you start to experience some challenges, you start to compare yourself to others who stayed in your industry. Okay. Or compare yourself to maybe another business you were thinking of starting instead, or another path you could have taken. Okay. And then, of course, there's the comparison that is to people in your own industry who are doing what you're doing and seemingly have more success than you do. And so then you compare yourself to them and feel like you don't belong. Who am I to start this and do this? Right? What do I know? So there's all that stuff that can rise up. Okay. So when you're in comparison, you catch yourself and start to shift that perspective and mindset into the comparison being an inspiration of what's possible, especially if it's in your own industry, right? So this is not going to solve the imposter syndrome, but the first part of working with it is to use whatever's happening. If it's the comparison, use that and shift your perspective around that to inspiration. So if it's someone in your industry and you're looking at what they're doing, that's a possibility for you. You can do that too, right? And so how can you use that as an inspiration to move you forward? Okay, so that's the first one. Use what's happening, especially if it's comparison, and use it as a way to move forward. The second part of it is, if that is happening because you are comparing your accomplishments to another, it's important to look at what you have done, not what you have not done. Our brain is automatically going to go and look at the things we haven't accomplished yet. And I'm going to ask you to look at the things that you have accomplished, that you have done. So even physically sitting down and writing all the things that you have done, all the things you have accomplished. Now, whether the results were what you want or not, that's not what we're talking about. It's about the effort. So we're going to focus on the effort. When I'm saying what you've accomplished, I'm not talking about necessarily the results. You can look at that too, and you can write that down if you like. But I'm going to ask you to acknowledge all the effort that you put in. That's more motivating. Okay. So sit down, write down all the steps that you've taken. Even the fact that you're starting a business already puts you doing more than a lot of people do. Right? There are a lot of people that think about starting a business and don't do it. The fact that you're doing that already puts you as an accomplishment. I actually did it, right? And we all know what it takes to start a business. It takes a lot. There's a lot of steps that happen. There's a lot of mindset issues. There's a lot of decisions that have to be made. So even acknowledging that as a starting point. So I talked about comparison and how you can use that as inspiration. And I talked about when you're looking at successes to acknowledge your accomplishments. The third part is actually the main thing, and it is to really look at your where it's coming from, where this imposter syndrome is coming from, to look at the conditioning, to look at your thought processes. What were you taught as a child that was success? What were you taught as a child that's okay for you to do? What were you modeled? What was modeled in your household? You can look at, where you grew up, the neighborhood you grew up in. What were the people in your neighborhood doing? What were your parents, if you had both parents in your life, doing? The people that raised you, what were they doing for work? What were the messages that you were given, right? So all those things is how you were conditioned. And so we're also conditioned by what we see on TV. We're conditioned, but that conditions a lot of, that basically decides how we show up in the world. So looking at that part of the root of the imposter syndrome, this is like most likely going to be have to happen at each level of your business, right? So looking at the root of that is really going to bring the massive shifts in what's happening and how you show up in your business, and then in turn also the results. Okay, so doing that kind of work is usually done with a mentor, with a coach who knows how to do that kind of work, knows how to look at the subconscious, because it's in your subconscious mind. Remember, your subconscious mind controls about 90% of your behavior. And so to help you work through that. And so it's something I do with my clients, and where they see massive changes and success when we're able to go through that process together. And as they're actually taking and making steps in their business, we're able to go through these feelings that rise up through that imposter syndrome. Okay. So hopefully you found something helpful today. I'd love to hear from you. If there's one thing that you heard today that you're going to try, you can contact me. You can send me a message. I'd love to hear what that is. I'd love to hear what you've taken away from this episode, and what you're going to, what action you're going to take. And finally, I have a really wonderful quiz, if I do say so myself. It's uncovering your business success archetype. It's free and it's on my website. I have the link available here as well. And that's so you can see you more insight on your persona and how you show up in the world, right? That archetype, and that, so you can see what are your strengths and how you can use that for your success, and then what you're pushing away and what you're hiding and what's in your shadows, so you can start to look at that as well. So if you want to take that, that is available to you as well. So until next time, next week, you take good care, and don't forget to subscribe if you're listening to this in a podcast. Make sure that you follow. If you're on a social media platform and watching this on YouTube, make sure you subscribe so you know whenever I release an episode, which is weekly. Until next time, take good care. Bye.